this week's episode of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Diamond is Unbreakable. Josuke and Koichi end up having a final confrontation with the Nijimura brothers, and their mysterious and freaky-looking father, who actually has a past connection to Dio. Another week, another brutally awesome episode of Diamond is Unbreakable. A little slower than some of the previous episodes, but this one I really liked a lot because one, we already have a brand new villain who is introduced in this episode, and we also have another new character who is introduced who has ties to Dio from Stardust Crusaders. That is right. And believe it or not, this character is actually the father of frickin' Keicho and Okuyasu. That is right. They actually have a father that they've barely ever mentioned before. When he's introduced in this episode, he might give you nightmares because he literally looks like a giant, walking, boogery, amphibious creature of disgustingness. I can't even really describe what this guy looks like, but he basically just looks like this human frog man who is covered in warts, and he is chained up in the top of this house, and this guy has completely lost his mind. He's not even human at this point, but he does have some crazy abilities, which he can actually regenerate his body. He is incapable of being killed, and this has all been a plan of Keicho Nijimura. He actually is trying to find a stand user who can kill his father. Now, why does his father have these abilities? Well, apparently at some point in the past, in the distant year of 1988, Keicho's father actually worked directly for Dio, and he had one of those weird buds which was implanted into his head. Now, this is a character that we did not see in Stardust Crusaders, and he's essentially one of Dio's goons who decided to work in the background, so we never really saw him before. And after the death of Dio, the bud started to take over this guy's body and basically transformed him into this disgusting, mindless monster. And as if that's not tragic enough, the Nijimura father actually has had a really bad family life with Okuyasu and Keicho as well. Apparently after the death of the mother, his business went under, and that's when he met Dio, and that's when things finally started going wrong. He would mercilessly beat his children, so safe to say the Nijimura family wasn't exactly like the one in Full House. And seeing as how Josuke is such an upstanding kind of hero, he decides that he actually wants to help out the Nijimura brothers by using his stand's power to actually heal the father. And in doing so, he'll actually take the bow and arrow from them as a sort of thanks for doing that, although he does have plans to destroy the bow and arrow. But there are other villains in the world of Diamond is Unbreakable, and they want the bow and arrow too, for their own evil machinations. And that's when we're finally introduced to a brand new stand in this week's episode, which goes by the name of Red Hot Chili Pepper. And it is awesome. It's this electrical stand which can actually travel through electrical wires and outlets and phones, and it looks like this little golden alien with a bird beak. It's really damned awesome looking, and it not only manages to take Keicho away by dragging him into this electrical outlet, but it takes him outside and actually just completely fries his body on some power lines. And this is after impaling him with his hand. This scene was unexpected and ridiculous, and again proves why this series has some of the most creative villains with the craziest powers that you have ever seen. The episode comes to an end with Okuyasu deciding to stay in town with his father, and he basically just ends up becoming the default friend of Josuke, even showing up at his house at the end of the episode, getting ready to walk with him to school, which I thought it was funny that Josuke's like, look, we're not in grade school, you don't have to do this, man. But the episode ended with a great scene with Jotaro Kujo getting a mysterious phone call in his hotel room, and it happens to be that stand user who's using the Red Hot Chili Pepper, and this guy is basically letting him know, look, I'm giving you a little bit of a warning. I don't want you around, and if I see you, I'm basically gonna kill you. I got big plans for this bow and arrow, and they don't involve you. And this is basically all a trick for him to try and kill Jotaro by making the phone explode right in his hand, but it's not going to go that easy. Jotaro Kujo is not going to go down like that. So what's the rundown on this week's episode of Diamond is Unbreakable? This was another really good episode, which I do have to admit probably wasn't as good as some of the previous episodes, but only because the first 15 minutes was all devoted to this whole backstory about the Nijimura father, and it wasn't as interesting as the previous episodes, but I liked the fact that it had ties to Stardust Crusaders, and it also had ties to Dio as well. For me, my favorite thing about this episode was the Red Hot Chili Pepper stand. I love the design of it. I love the fact that it is an electrical stand that can travel through just about anything that does have electricity applied to it, and the fact that it can drag humans through that is really damn disturbing. Not to mention, it also just has some scary abilities in the fact that it'll just impale you with its hand. That's really creepy right there. I also really like the fact that Koichi is going to be a lot more involved in the adventures that they're going to be going on now that he has the ability to use stands, which unfortunately were not shown in this episode. But still, he has a lot of bravery, which is something that Josuke definitely mentioned about him in this episode, as they confronted this weird, freaky monster upstairs, which ended up being the chained father of frickin' Okuyasu. That was really insane. So, they've gotten rid of one of the Nijimura brothers, but we still have one who's been left behind, and that is Okuyasu, and they've made it painfully clear from the intro and the ending of the series that he is going to be one of the main characters, and I can't wait to see more of this guy. The way he plays off of everyone is great, and he's just so blissfully happy at the end of the episode that you just can't help but want to put a big smile on your face. It also helped that this week's episode had some good artwork and animation, in particular during that Red Hot Chili Pepper scene. That looked really fantastic, and again brought to mind memories of Stardust Crusaders, especially the design of this stand. Very humanoid, very alien, but still has this like weird cybernetic, organic look to it. They always seem to have that weird combination with the way they look, and all I know is I'm really excited about this. It is worth noting that if you are going to be watching this, in the translations, they actually changed the name of Red Hot Chili Pepper to simply just Chili Pepper. Obviously, for copyright reasons. They don't want to get any heat from the band, the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and I can understand why they're doing that. But the thing is, you can clearly hear Keicho saying Red Hot Chili Pepper. Or not Keicho, but the actual person who is using that stand at the end of the episode, who is still a complete mystery, by the way. So I can't wait to see who this villain is and what his plans are for the bow and arrow. Maybe he wants to create his very own army of stand users. Maybe he has another ulterior motive very similar to Keicho. What I've learned from this episode is that not every single thing is going to be black and white about these characters, and I can't wait to see what this race for the arrow is going to be like, who's going to get it next, what they're going to plan to use it for. There's lots of intrigue to see where this story is going to be going from here on, and I can't wait to see how Jotaro is going to get involved with Josuke's group as well. So another fantastic episode of Diamond is Unbreakable with great production value, lots of new characters, and a really cool new villain. And I'm going to give this week's episode a 4 out of 5. I thought it was a little slow in the first half of the episode, but by the time Red Hot Chili Peppers introduced, I was amped up. So make sure to check this week's episode out, JoJo fans. You'll definitely see something you like. But if any of you guys did watch this week's episode, why don't you tell me what you thought about it in the comment section below? What did you think of that brand new stand that appeared in this episode? If you could have a stand power, what would it be? And what do you want to see from the rest of Diamond is Unbreakable? Please tell me in the comment section below. You guys are awesome. Thank you for watching this review. I really appreciate it. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, follow us on social media, and also make sure to check out our weekly podcast show, The Powerful Nerdcast. It's pretty freaking awesome. Thank you guys again for watching, and as always, stay dandy, baby.